Welcome to this week's Food Sports Central, the podcast of the World Food Championships. And I'm your host, Mark Conway, as always. And the anticipation, the build, the excitement. And I'm sitting here going through all of the pictures from the 2022 10th anniversary event, just remembering kind of what we saw, who cooked what, how did they make it, what did they put together, and realizing that by far was the biggest and best World Food Championships we'd ever had to date. And we expected that. 10th anniversary, what we thought was going to be our final year in Dallas, but is now not our final year because at this point we're going back to Dallas for the 11th annual event. It had master judges, which was a whole new element. It had the additional kind of ancillary events. It had this feel of food sports Super Bowl, which is what the World Food Championships is. Now, we're almost at the cusp of taking it one step further, which is final table. The 10 competitors that won there in Dallas will now compete head to head, no longer in their own individual categories. So it's not going to be everybody cooking their best steak out of their category versus the best burger versus the best bacon. All of that is now a clean slate. Everybody's going to be cooking the same category, each level into this culinary gauntlet. So you can't just have one skill set. You can't just be dessert. You can't just be soup. You have to be ready to cook anything at any time, and let's face it, anywhere. That's what makes the culinary gauntlet of Final Table so daunting. Each year, for these 10 years of the World Food Championships, it's evolved and changed. This year is no different. We're going to be in Bentonville, Arkansas. We've been there once before with the Final Table, so this is a return to Bentonville. And there are some pretty significant curveballs that are going to be headed the ways of our competitors. And as we talk through and meet each of the competitors, we're going to see how they feel about it, what they think, what they're doing, what is their mindset going in. And for today's guest, this is a return to the Final Table. And when we say return, I mean within a half a point of winning kind of return. Almost there previously. Now going back, fully expecting to wear a sash and tiara, glance across the winner's table, and take home the big prize. And I've met a lot of people at World Foods. There are few people I've met more competitive, more straight to the point about winning food sport, and who backs up those claims of being the top of the bacon world, the bacon babe herself, Jodi Taffel. How are you?
I'm good, Mark. I should have recorded that. I could put that on my website. That sounded really good.
Well, I'll send you a copy and you can have that and use that now.
Excellent.
You know, it's great to get you on because you are one of the few people who will now be repeating and going to the Final Table for a second time, especially with all the new format changes, but have also won your category more than once to really, put that emphasis on being the bacon babe. You've now won bacon 2 times.
Yep. Both times in Dallas. So when you guys announced that we were going back to Dallas, I was thrilled because clearly Dallas likes my cooking.
And that would be 2019 and now 2022. You've won that bacon category.
Yes.
So why bacon? Why is bacon your category? Why are you the bacon babe? When you were starting your culinary food sport journey, what said, you know what, my path is bacon?
Cheapness.
I like that answer.
It was really it was. It wasn't about bacon. It was about there was a cooking competition. Before bacon, a year before bacon, I had entered a contest here in LA called the Grilled Cheese Invitational. It was sort of a stoner event. It happened on 420. And my, at the time, boyfriend said, it's like $20 each to get in, plus we have to pay for parking. But if you compete, we get in for free. And I was like, all right. So we went in and we competed, and The whole time we thought, it'll just be a fun day out and we're getting in for free. And when we got there, they said, oh, you're in the anything goes category. That's the most hotly contested category. There's 200 entries. And I was like, all right, whatever. And my, boyfriend he told me later that he spent all day saying to himself, okay, how do I console her when she loses? And I ended up winning the whole thing, which led me to another cooking competition that was a bacon cooking competition. It was the same cheapness from him. He's like, it'll be free if we go. So just, let's add more bacon to your grilled cheese and get into that thing for free. And we got there, and Ricardo Heredia, the very first bacon champion, was competing in the professional category. And I was competing in the amateur category. And it wasn't until we were almost done with our cook that we were told, oh, well, first prize, in addition to money, is entry into this thing called the World Food Championships. And I looked over at my boyfriend and I was like, oh, God, I hope we come in second. Like, there was no world competition. And then I won. I won amateur and Ricardo won the professional, and we headed to Vegas. And next thing you know, the Bacon Babe was born. Again, back to the ex-boyfriend. He was like, you have to wear a chef coat. And I said, no, I'm not a chef. I'm not wearing a chef coat. That's reserved for people that earned it. And he's like, well, we have to make you stand out somehow. And he literally was flipping channels, and he came upon The Muppet Show. And he saw Miss Piggy. And he's like, oh, that's a really cool idea. And the next thing you know, I had a sash and a tiara and a ball gown.
I like it. I mean, it works.
It works. Although now I only have a sash.
Hey, the sash is a trademark statement. It is, I mean, everybody knows it's iconic,
It is.
And,
the tiara was iconic too, but, as I mentioned back in Dallas, I lost my mom in April, and I left my tiara with her.
That's beautiful.
So,
well, coming from someone else who likes to make a statement with wardrobe,
yes,
I totally dig the sash, and I like the story of how you got into food sport, because that's really kind of carved out a career path for you, a very successful career path for you, by starting with I'm kind of hungry, and this sounds fun, and here we go, and going from grilled cheese to bacon seems like a natural transition to me. And so now you're just rolling right through. Bacon was pretty hotly contested this year. It really was. I mean, I know it normally is, but this year it felt like bacon was one of those, it was teetering on the cusp during the competition.
Really? Honestly, I don't know. People ask me every year, or at every bacon competition I've ever been in, did you get nervous when you saw whoever was next to you cooking? And I'm like, sorry, I was a little busy. I have tunnel vision. I couldn't tell you who was cooking next to me, much less what they were cooking. I don't even ever get pictures of my own food. A couple weeks after WFC, I'm on social media going, does anybody get pictures of my food?
Well, you're usually the person I think that some people are intimidated to be next to. I mean, you have a sash that says the Bacon Babe. You're a previous champion. You've been to final table. Like, that has some clout to make some other people nervous. And I think that that's one of the good things. When you cook, you really dial in. Like, I got to get my dish out. That's the only thing that matters right now. You're not one of the people that with a half a second remaining is running down the red carpet. You've got a plan. And I think that's what out of every champion that I really talk to, it's about having a plan and working the plan.
Thank you. Yeah. This year, even more so, because I had broken all the toes on my right foot and I was walking around with that horrible boot. So I really had to plan how, it was going to take me longer to get my dish over to the turn-in table. So I had to time everything very, very specifically. And having two sous chefs that, one I had never worked with before, we were friends on social media, and another one that I literally had met in the nail salon like a week before.
That was a great story.
Yeah, my usual sous chefs were unavailable. One was in Europe. One was walking his niece down the aisle the exact day. And I'm like, I would love to ask you to not do that, but I can't.
Yeah, I can't really do that one.
So I literally was working on my dishes. Suzanne Clark, ambassadress extraordinaire, kept me from my head exploding because there were so many times I was calling her going, I'm just pulling out. I can't do it. I have nobody to work with. I can't do this all by myself. I'm not going to go. And she was like, just put one foot in front of the other. See if you can sort of streamline your dish just a little bit more and still come, because you really need to be there. And every time I was like, no, she's like, just relax, have a glass of wine and don't think about it tonight and come back to the kitchen tomorrow.
I mean, that's a good philosophy for me. Have a glass of wine, take a deep breath, come back at it later. Because a lot of it's just about perspective. It's about how we see things in a given moment based on what stress we're put under at that time. And sometimes literally just stepping back to take that minute clears everything. You're like, oh, okay, I've got this. Because you put out some sensational dishes. So walk us through your opening round dishes versus your top 10 dish.
My opening round dishes was definitely the biggest deal for me. This was the first year that we didn't have to do 2 dishes, one per hour over a 2-hour time period. And I thought, we've got pretty much the same amount of time. I can't just do one simple thing. I have to make it a little more interesting. So that's why I decided to do three different things, because I wanted to make sure that I used the time. I wanted to make sure that when the judges got my dish, they looked down and went, wow, this person used all the time we gave them, as opposed to like one little thing on a plate going, how many cooking shows do you see on TV where they go, well, you could have put out a little more than that in the time we gave you. I didn't want that to be what the judges thought. And then I was like, all right, so what do I do? What am I going to do? And bacon is, by nature, a savory ingredient. And I thought, all right, well, in the go big or go home category, what if I do a dessert? And then I was like, all right, I'm going to do a dessert, and I want to make sure I'm one of the last people to turn in, so that by the time the judges get it, they're so savoried out that something sweet will wake up their palates.
So you rock the strategy.
And that strategy actually also came from, I judge the U.S. pizza competitions. I put people on the U.S. pizza team to compete in Parma, Italy for like the World Pizza Championships.
Yep.
And the first year that I did that, try tasting 20 pizzas in one day. That's a lot. But the first year that I did that, the 20th pizza that came across the table was a dessert pizza. And it won. And I can't tell you that it wasn't because we were all like, oh, wow, this just woke me up. It was something completely different than 19 other things I had just tasted. And that was in my mind when I thought, do a dessert, be one of the last to present, so that when the judges get your food, they're like, wow, this is super different than everything else I've tried.
I love that. And it is. There's a lot of strategy to competing. And I think understanding the process, the turn-in process, and then understanding how eat judging works, really understanding both of those things can absolutely 100% separate you from the pack.
Thank you. In addition, I also like molecular gastronomy. I think it's fun. I've been a huge fan of Wiley Dufresne since he first came on the scene. There's a lot of stuff that he's done that I still try and figure out how he's done. I got his I waited for years for his cookbook to come out, and when it finally did, I was like the first one in line to get it. And a lot of that stuff is very, very challenging. But there's also stuff that looks really super cool and isn't that hard. Like the bacon snow that I did. It's so not difficult that was the thing that I gave to my sous chef, who I never met in person. I emailed her the recipes. I sent her video of me doing it. And when we talked on the phone, she was really intimidated. And I said, just do it and then call me back. And she did it. And she called me back and she's like, oh my God, I had no idea how easy that was going to be. I'm doing this for like all of my family for the holidays. It's easy, it's fun, it's different,
Yep.
and it makes a statement.
It does.
So,
Describe your dishes to everybody who did not have the benefit of being there to taste the dishes with
okay, so
bacon snow.
my three desserts were I did a bacon French macaron with a
Mm-hmm.
bacon Russian buttercream. When I learned about Russian buttercream, I had never heard of it before. And then the first time I made it, I was like, that's delicious. And there's almost no way to screw that up. So definitely had that in the bag.
Yep.
And then for the French macaron, I've done that a few times. And I know it's very dependent on humidity.
Mm-hmm.
So I made sure when you guys said that we had the Metro carts,
Yes.
I looked up what Metro cart we were having, and I was like, oh, it's like a speed rack. They're not solid shelves. So
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who lives near there, Lori McLean, everybody's best friend. She went out and she bought me two battery-powered fans with clips. And I put one on the top of the Metro speed rack and one right under it. So I had airflow over my macaron. So no matter what the weather was going to be, I was going to be able to get that shell.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first one. And then and I put that on top of I think that one had the white chocolate snow. I did chocolate snows for all three as like the bed.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a white chocolate snow under that one. Then I did an edible spoon that I filled with a maple bacon and a ruby chocolate ganache. And that was on a dark chocolate snow.
Mm.
And then I did a Florentine cookie, a bacon Florentine cookie. That there was bacon in the cookie, and in the center was my bourbon bacon balsamic pecan marmalade. And I put that on the ruby chocolate snow. So there was really pretty colors in each element. Each element was super bacon forward, and each one was a different kind of dessert, something that either looked complicated or was something they'd never seen before.
Right. I mean, and that was the thing. It's perspective. You're, instead of just going, okay, this is bacon, it's savory, it is what it is. That's the thing that you see out of champions, food champions, is that you can adjust your perspective to look at something new. Bacon snow, I remember Mike McLeod, it was one of the first things he noticed when he was talking about some of the different things that he was seeing. He was like, there's bacon snow. That's the kind of thing you have to stay on that edge, because again, this is your second year going to final table. You have won the category before, and instead of just saying, okay, I know these things, you went and learned and studied and researched and practiced new skill sets that allowed you to up your game to the next level, which is what keeps you in that winner's circle. You know, how does preparing for this final table differ from 2019 when you were preparing for that one?
Well, we don't know anything yet. So right now, preparing is really just about, getting airfares and car rentals and a place to stay.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing to prepare for, and that's really that's actually the part that's keeping me up at night, because it's not a secret to say I'm a research girl. I like to research what we're doing, and there's nothing to research yet. So all I can do to prepare is what I do every day. I'm a private chef for a couple in San Marino. Not that means anything to you. But I do lunch and dinner 4 days a week, and I do something different every meal. And I make sure that it's something I can do in an hour. I always time everything that I'm making for them. And I started that job right before Dallas. And even though this is, these are people that, they like what they like and they know what they want and they can afford to have a private chef. Right. But I told them all, I said, I need you to tell me exactly what you think of the food every day. When I give you lunch, I give you dinner. I want your honest opinions. Telling me something is delicious doesn't do me any favors. I need to know if a single element wasn't up to par, wasn't up to your liking. If it wasn't pretty, I need to know.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very good about telling me.
Well, I think one of the things that doing a job like that and approaching it like you are, with giving yourself a time constraint, making sure you always do something different, the best preparation for the unknown is to be well-rounded, is to understand all those basic techniques. Because if you understand all of your strong and most basic techniques, it doesn't matter what gets thrown at you, you're going to know what to do. So if you know how to pickle, how to make a clean reduction, a base sauce, whether it's multiple ways to cook fish, multiple ways to cook beef, you're doing probably the best preparation anyone could do, preparing for the unknown. So I think that's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny because I was even thinking last week at work, I go, boy, I think I'm ready to go on Chopped. Because oftentimes I go into the pantry or the refrigerator and I'm like, oh, how long has that been there? Let's see what I can turn that into. I actually did a curry the other day. I wasn't planning to do a curry. I was planning to do something else. And I was planning to do a chicken dish, and somebody took my chicken. I think one of the housekeepers used my chicken for something else. So I went through the cupboards and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, look. Oh, I got a can of chickpeas. Oh, look, I've got the gardener brought in some beet greens. Oh, wait a minute. That would work in a curry. That would work. Mm-hmm. Look, there's curry paste. Look, there's curry powder. Look, there's coriander. And the next thing you know, I had this really tasty curry. And I was like, damn, girl. I never made a curry before. I never even liked curry before. And I was like, geez, I can go on Chopped.
That's the progression. That's that amazing preparation that comes into with just cooking every day. Just staying on the bike, keeping moving forward. Doesn't matter if it's a hill, if it's a valley, whatever it is, you just keep riding the bike. And now you mentioned you're a private chef. Do you compete other places besides World Foods, or is it kind of that's where you've honed everything in on now?
It's not where I started competing.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, this is going to sound super egotistical, and I'm sorry if it does. Pretty much, I've won most of the stuff on the Food Network and Cooking Channel and BBC. I've won most of the cook-offs that I could drive to, and the ones that are out there, unless it's a monetary prize. I've won enough KitchenAid stand mixers. I've won more stuff, more kitchen appliances. I could open up my own sur la table. So I don't compete unless it's a trip I want or a significant cash prize. And there's not a lot of those out there anymore. So yeah. I've pretty much stuck to WFC. Once I won the California Bacon Championships, I was like, all right, well, got to the top there. And I really, really thought winning the World Bacon Championships at WFC in 2019 was going to be, it was like, I've won Miami. But then at final table, I placed second by a half a point. And that one it's still sticking right here.
Yep. And that drives you to compete again and hit you at that next goal and that next level. And very soon we'll be seeing you in Bentonville. That's what I think it makes this so interesting, is because this will be a different final table than what you saw in 2019. Yep. There'll be new twists and turns that we don't know about. There's the new, the gauntlet gets a little deeper and a little stronger each time. And, but you're one of those few people who have seen multiple versions of World Foods, multiple versions of Final Table. Now you'll see a new one. What is kind of the something that never changes year in and year out at World Foods? And what is something this year that really took you by surprise?
What never changes? The only thing that never changes is that Mike McLeod is running it. Everything changes.
There you go.
Up until 2017 or 18, Final Table was the last day of WFC. So it happened all in the same week, and you did your best dish. And I always thought that was on the one hand cool because everybody was definitely putting their best foot forward. But on the other hand, it was comparing apples to oranges.
Right.
How do you compare ribs to a cupcake? So I liked when WFC changed to the format it has now, which is everybody cooks the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you ask me? I forgot now.
What is something that took you kind of by surprise this year that was new?
Well, what took me by surprise, but that I really, really liked, was the master judges, having the master judges in Dallas. And all of the other final table competitors don't even realize that was a great sort of practice for them, because at final table you have to present your dish to the judges.
And it makes a difference.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. And one of my really good cooking friends, Chef Roberto Rose, Bobby, he, right before we in Dallas went to present our top 10 dishes, he's like, Jode, he says, the one thing you have over everybody else, you're a professional actor. You know how to talk to people. You know how to sell yourself and whatever you have in front of you. He's like, you could sell snow to Eskimos. Dude, this is in your wheelhouse.
Well, you sold some bacon snow, so that's for sure.
I did sell some bacon snow. And I really, really liked being able to present to the master judges because, well, like for the snow, for example, I used the snow in my top 10 dish. And I got to explain that I used it in Doc Barbecue. Said, oh, I'm so glad you said that, because I looked down and I said, I wonder why she put powdered sugar on this dish. And I thought, well, I'm so glad I got to say that, because powdered sugar is not that.
Yep.
And I also, like I said to the judges, and I was really, when I planned my top 10 dish, I knew we were going to be presenting to the master judges. So I did a dish where you couldn't see the bacon at all. You really couldn't. It was in there. There was like 6 pounds of it in there. But I did a tonkatsu ramen broth, and I did the snow, and I did a bacon caviar. And there were, the one piece of bacon you could see wasn't the sponsor bacon. It was the slab bacon that I had brought. But I got to tell them where all of the Peterson Farms bacon was, where all 6 pounds of it was. And if I hadn't have been able to tell them that, I don't know that I would have done as well as I had, because I could see them looking down at the plate and going, well, where's the sponsor product? I don't see it.
That played a huge role for exactly what you said. Many, many reasons, but for exactly what you said. There's those instances where you're getting super creative and you're bringing a new technique to the table, and that's going to get pushed every year now. New techniques, new things to do. But when at first glance, to someone who doesn't know exactly what you did, they could totally misinterpret what that was. And, that mentally checks some people out right there. So your ability to present and explain the dish really did change that person's view of the dish. And then that pushed you over the top, and you're doing a lot of things. You're doing private chef, and you do celebrity dinners, and you do these kind of things. Where can people follow you on social media?
My website went live a few weeks ago. It's baconbabecatering.com. And so you can find me there. You can also find me on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. At Instagram, I'm the.bacon.babe. But other than that, Facebook, I'm the Bacon Babe or Bacon Babe Catering or Jodi Taffel. I have 3 Facebook pages. And I don't TikTok because I'm 100 years old and I don't know how to do it and I don't want to learn.
I don't blame you there.
But I don't have that much time for social media between the private chefing, the private catering, the celebrity clientele, which, it's nice. I live in Hollywood, and one of the things that the notoriety of WFC has brought me is Hollywood is very much a town of, being able to show off to your friends. So I do have a lot of clients that have found me through WFC, and they get to sort of trot me out of the kitchen to their friends and go, we have the world bacon champion. She's the best bacon chef in the world, cooking for you. Oh, look, I'm holding my hand right under.
You're right under the tag. It was perfect product placement.
It was. I didn't realize I was doing that, but here we go. This is 2019. This one's 2022 that I haven't framed yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so baconbabecatering.com. I do my private client. I do Monday through Thursday. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I do a lot of like weddings and bar mitzvahs, and yes, the Bacon Babe does bar mitzvahs.
So
it's not lost on me.
I love that. As we get closer and closer, do you have any words of wisdom or advice for your fellow competitors going to their first final table?
Now, why would I do that? No,
I had to ask.
No, I actually do. I want to win, but I want to beat them all at their best.
At their best.
Because they're at a disadvantage. So my advice to people that haven't been to final table before is to just, when we get the challenges, do your best to sort of research whatever it is they're asking us to do and practice it. And make sure that your sous chefs know stuff that you don't know. Hiring sous chefs or using sous chefs that can do exactly what you can do is a waste of space, a waste of a body. My sous chefs tend to be people that can do stuff that I can't do, or that do it better than I do.
Smart. It's a good plan. It's putting a team together, not a group of eyes. So very cool. Guys, if you aren't already following the World Food Championships on Instagram and Facebook, I don't know what you're lagging behind for. Make sure you follow the World Food Championships on both social platforms and share that out with others, though they can start to grow their love of food sport just like you do. And bookmark, earmark, set a tab, whatever you need to do, worldfoodchampionships.com. The information is going to start coming out extremely fast over the coming weeks. You're not going to want to get left behind because that's where deadlines, dates, opportunities, ways to judge, ways to compete, it's all going to be there. You want to make sure you see it first. So I tell you, this has been a great week on the show here with the reigning and 2019 World Bacon Champion, Miss Jodi Taffel. And we look forward to seeing you and your sash at Final Table in Bentonville, Arkansas before we know it.
Thank you. Hope maybe if I actually am, the stars align and I win, there'll be a new tiara.
Oh, I like that. There you go. You've heard it here first. Possibility of a new tiara when she wins the whole shebang of the World Food Championship.
That you said when.
Got to always think positive. Got to put it out in the universe every time. Well, guys, thanks so much for listening. Thank you again, Jodi. And we will see you next week.